Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement will please come to order. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. It's right at 5:30 in the afternoon. We are in room G15 of the State Capitol building, and a quorum is present, including some senators that are en route. Thank you, everybody, for what should be the final Legislative Commission on Pension and Retirement meeting of the year. We plan to work through the bills. We have some success in our negotiations, and you'll hear about that. We're not taking live testimony tonight, but there are several letters that are in your packets, members. And with that, I would ask that we consider approval of the April 21st, 2026 meeting minutes. Representative Cha, would you please make the motion? Representative Cha moves that the April 21st, 2026 minutes be approved. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion prevails. With that, item 2 on the agenda, Senator Rasmusson and Representative Klevorn. This is a bill that was amended at the, hang on. What I meant to say is we're going to have the spreadsheet run through first before we go to agenda item 2. I don't know why I said that about agenda item 2. That's just crazy talk. I know better than that. Mr. Erickson, how timely. I was just saying we were going to have the spreadsheet run through.
Very convenient indeed, Mr. Chair.
Please introduce yourself and give us your run through.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the Pensions Commission, I'm Andrew Erickson with Senate Council of Research and Fiscal Analysis, and I just am going to briefly walk through the spreadsheet that should be included in your packets. It is time-stamped in the lower right corner as 5/5/26 at 10:29 a.m., so hopefully everybody has the right one. The first block of columns is going to show the current biennium effects of proposed amendments to the Pensions Omnibus Bill. The second set of columns would be the impact on the tails in the fiscal 28-29 biennium. Along the left side, you'll see a few of the bills that have been posted for potential inclusion in the Omnibus Bill. Of course, the Pensions Commission may consider further changes beyond these bills that are listed here, but this gives a sense of what the fiscal impact would be as of the bills that were posted earlier this morning. So beginning on lines 5 and 6 is the first part of one change item related to the State Board of Investment expense apportionment. This would reduce an appropriation from the general fund to the Board of Investment. There is, towards the bottom, I'll get to it, a different corresponding revenue for costs that are billed to the general fund, excuse me. On lines 9 and 10 is a direct state aid of $8 million each year to PERA Police and Fire. This is related to removing a COLA delay that's found in Senate File 1122 and House File 139. On lines 13 through 16, you will see a number of appropriations related to the setting up of the probation officer and 911 telecommunicator subplans. These would make up for the increased employer contributions, and these are the agencies who employ people who would be eligible for those plans. So you'll see $272,000 for the Department of Corrections, $56,000 for the Department of Public Safety, and $40,000 for the Met Council. These numbers are half of what the annual amounts are in the tails because these are done on a calendar year basis rather than the fiscal year basis. So there's twice as big an impact when we start looking at full years in those tails years. On line 21 to 22, you'll see direct state aid of $3.4 million annually for the St. Paul teachers benefit improvements that are found in Senate File 4860, House File 4812. And then finally, you'll see kind of spanning the page break on lines 30 and 31. This is a negative revenue, which is reflecting the loss to the general fund of the expenses that are currently not billed to the general fund. So this has a negative impact on the general fund total. You'll see on line 36 the totals for each year. Right now, this package of proposed amendments, again, these haven't been adopted and there may be additional ones, would amount to $12.4 million in the current budget biennium, and then $12.78 million each year of the tails for a total tails hit of $25.56 million. I'm happy to take any questions on the spreadsheet. I suspect there will be more conversation about individual pieces as those bills come up for consideration, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well done, Mr. Erickson. Members, there is a late arrangement for some one-time money, and I'm just going to ask Mr. Erickson, while we don't have it on the spreadsheet, would you mind saying a little bit about how that would look if we did have it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm not completely familiar with the change at this point, but my understanding is that there's a $3 million one-time appropriation that would be split in an account partially between MSRS and PERA eligible employees. I think it is $390,000 in 1 year for MSRS and $2.61 million for PERA. That would be a $3 million one-time hit in fiscal '27. So the spreadsheet, if that's adopted, the spreadsheet will be updated for that after the commission hearing. The tails hit would be the same. If you're looking at line 36, that 12.4 million becomes 15.4 million.
Mr. Erickson, you did better than I could. Thank you for that. Members, understanding that we'll go through each bill individually and there'll be time for questions on the spreadsheet for that. Do any members have any questions for Mr. Erickson now before we go ahead with the bill agenda? Here's your chance, but not your last chance. Thank you, Mr. Erickson, and thanks for being ready today to help us on short notice. With that, members, we will go to agenda item number 2, which is Senate File 4572, House File 4367. This bill was amended at the April 21st meeting. Representative Nash is here. Representative Nash, I don't know if you want to say a couple words, but would welcome that. And we have a 6A amendment. So why don't we have Representative Nash address the bill first, and then we'll put the 6A amendment on. Representative, welcome to LCPR.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just wanted to say this is a good effort put together by both myself, Chair Klevorn, Chair Lillie, and Chair O'Driscoll, along with working through the Senate. This squares up how the SBI would have a chargeback to appropriately manage the retirement efforts for every agency. As you know from, I'm sure, years, right now they have a one-time appropriation of $139,000 that really doesn't get the job done, and it doesn't appropriately have it reflected in each agency's line item. So it's very straightforward. I know a lot of us have been talking about it for a long time, and I just appreciate you getting this before the commission today.
Representative, I want to thank you on behalf of LCPR and SBI for what the members of the House did, and we don't have to get into it tonight, members, but just understand over the last few days, a tremendous amount of discussion about where to fund this. Representative Klevorn was here earlier this session. Thank you for your work on this. Members, any questions for Representative Nash before we put the amendment on? Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, I'm also strongly supportive of this, as is Senator Rasmusson, who can't be here tonight, and I would be honored to offer the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. With that, members, we're going to have the 6A amendment. Senator Pappas moves that the 6A amendment be adopted onto Senate File 4276. Ms. Linczewski, do you want to give a brief description of the amendment? Or Ms. Wilson? Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. So the 6A amendment is just a reformatted version of the bill. So it didn't change anything that was in the bill. It's just been reformatted as an amendment, and what Senator Nash said applies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, questions before we move to adopt, or we have moved to and have adoption? Seeing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the 6A amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The 6A is adopted, and the motion prevails. Thank you, Representative Nash. We're going to put this all together at the end of tonight's hearing. Again, our thanks to everybody in the House and to State Gov in particular.
Thank you all.
Members, we're now going to go to the third item on the agenda. This is Senator Howe, Senate File 4464, and Representative Novotny, House File 4988. Members may remember this bill was laid over from the April 14th meeting. I know, Senator Howe, we've talked and you have a couple amendments. The members, there are letters in your folders, and some are in support of the DE4, some are in support of the DE2. Senator Howe, if you want to testify to the bill, that's fine, or move the amendments. You have the floor, Senator.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's okay, I'll go from here. Members, the DE2, what it does is it deletes everything, and what it does is puts in two things. One is I do have a concern that if we don't do something, we could get sued for age discrimination, because if you're over 55 and have over 20 years, you get no health benefits. But if you're under 55 and over 20 years, you get 60 months. You get 5 years. And I think we've got legal opinions that say that that's a clear opportunity for age discrimination. So what this would do is put that in place for those folks with over 55, that are over 55 and have at least 20 years of service. It would give them that. And what that would establish then is, the second part of this bill does the work group. And in this section, the work group, it lays out who's going to be on it, as far as representative memberships, what the intended purpose is, and in that, they would take up that piece to make sure that we eliminate that discrepancy, but we would not dictate on how they eliminate that discrepancy, but they would have to study it to come up with a plan. And so when the bill would be enacted, whatever comes out of that work group and gets recommended to the legislature in March, it would have that laid out as to how they were going to address that piece in the first subdivision in the first section. So members, I think this is an encompassing piece. I think it gets us out of the hot water. I will recommend people that, if you haven't studied this, the taxpayers paid over $750,000 of $750,000 for this study that I don't believe anybody has actually cracked the book on to actually study. Then there was another study done for another $100 and some thousand that I don't think anybody has read here either. And it directly talks about evaluating PTSD claims in Minnesota, workers' compensation systems, findings and recommendations. We haven't applied that. So members, if you haven't done your homework, that work group, I suggest, better do their homework. And that's what the DE2 does, is it sets provisions in place to ensure that we don't get sued in the next year, and puts a framework in place to actually come to a conclusion and put the next legislature on a track to make it right. And I will say, I'm going to give a little history lesson. I started this process with an ad hoc working group back in '22, couldn't come to a conclusion to where we really thought that I thought we had a bill to go forward. In 2023, the start of that ended up being in legislation that I didn't agree with because I didn't think it was in the proper form, and it got passed. Taken out of my hands, I wasn't in part of any of the discussion. Now in '25, we did it, I started down that road again, took all the arrows on it, and didn't go the way I thought it should go then either. So here we are again. I swore I'd never touch this topic again, but I decided that it was my last hurrah. I thought I needed to get it done and try to make it right. Well, guess what? It seems like there's another movement again. Members, it's up to you. You do as you see fit. That is the DE2 amendment.
Thank you, Senator Howe. And members, before we go to discussion or questions for the author of the DE2, the chair is a no on the DE2. However, the spirit of what Senator Howe's doing, I think, is probably shared by everybody on the LCPR. We want to find a solution that works better than what we have now. We do not have the funding for the DE2, but we have the appreciation for Senator Howe. And with that, we'll have member questions, concerns to the DE2 before we put it to a vote. Senator Howe.
What funding would be different in the DE2 than the DE4?
The funding from the participants, the stakeholders, including cities and counties. Senator Pappas.
Can you tell me what's the cost for the DE2? Do we know?
The cost would be borne by the employers. The employers bear the cost of the additional health insurance, and I agree with Senator Howe that we have a need to figure that out. What we do not have is an agreement, and the chair is unwilling to vote for an amendment over the objection of the employers at this point. The work group, I think, is a better approach, even though Senator Howe's right. A work group does not always produce the result we're looking for. Senator Howe.
Mr. Chair, there is no actual determined cost because we don't know. And there has never been a lawsuit. I would have to challenge that if we don't do anything in that piece, there will definitely be a lawsuit. And I would say that if you look at what the cost will be, in my opinion, zero to the employers if the Public Safety Division does what they're supposed to do by statute, current statute 299A.42 directs the Public Safety Division to look at what they have paid out, do a report, and I will say the first time they've done the report is this year, only because Senator Limmer and I sent them a letter requesting the report, and the report that we received was quite inadequate. We've requested additional information, has not received, but they are supposed to look at what the propensity of the claims are, how much of an increase they're going to need in funding, and they're supposed to fund all of those requests. In fact, there is a discussion on whether they can go back in the arrears and pay them employers. So the cost of the DE2, I would commend, would be nothing, because there's still $41 million in the pot that will take us to sometime in 2028 at the current rate of depletion. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, and if we fix this in 2027, like the legislature should, we will not run short. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Members, further questions or comments? Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Howe, I would like to thank you. There has been no one that I know of who has been working on this issue more tirelessly than you have. And you and I have been at some meetings together where you literally were ambushed by people on this topic. And I was appalled by the ambush that happened for someone who was actually trying to do the right thing. And I appreciate the work that you've done and your willingness to stick to this issue. And if this commission remembers, last year, when we were on the last night of the commission, I pleaded with this commission to do a work study group. And my words were, we will be back next year. It is next year. It is the last night of this commission's meeting, addressing this issue again. This work group should have been put in place last year. I am pleased that there's going to be a work group, or the strong potential that will adopt this in a work group to do the right thing, to get this resolved, to help people. Every time we pick this issue up and work on this issue, it's emotional for people who are drawing these benefits. We've seen it in front of the commission. Like Senator Howe, this will be my last meeting on the commission. And I want to make sure that Senator Howe publicly knows my appreciation and the work that he's done on this. And I wish we would be adopting a plan this year instead of putting a work group in place this year, because we could have had that result this year had we done a work group last year. Again, Senator Howe, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. Members, further comments or questions on the DE2? The chair does note that both the DE4 and the DE2 do carry with it $26,000 of available funds from the LCPR actuary money. So that will assist the work group, hopefully, to bring in testimony should it be needed. That's a tip of the cap, by the way, to the previous LCPR chair, who put that money together. With that, Senator Howe, are you asking for a roll call?
I would hope that I don't need one, but if you think I need one, I'll ask for a roll call.
All right. Roll call requested, roll call granted. The secretary will take the roll.
Senator Frentz?
No.
Senator Pappas?
No.
Senator Seeberger?
No.
Senator Westland? No. Senator Nelson? No. Senator Howe?
Aye.
Senator Rasmusson? Representative O'Driscoll?
No.
Representative Nadeau?
No.
Representative Steer?
No.
Representative Lillie?
No.
Representative
There being 1 yes and 5 noes on the Senate side and 7 noes on the House side, the amendment is not adopted. Representative Steer, you have the D4.
Yes, I'd like to move the DE4.
Representative Steer moves the DE4. Representative, do you want to describe it or have staff fill in any gaps?
I'll have staff describe it, but I just want to also thank Senator Howe for all his work on this. And I know last year at the end of session, it was a lot of stuff, moving parts. I got thrown into it, and I did work with Senator Howe. I tried to come up with a solution with the DE2, the DE4, and the solution that I came up with, the DE4, was also a letter of recommendation from the Association of Minnesota Counties, Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, League of Minnesota Cities, Minnesota Inter-County Association, MPPOA, and the list goes on. So I'm willing to take the arrows. Senator Howe, if he's going to leave it here, I'm willing to pick up the torch and take any arrows that come my way. But we do need to find a solution to this, and it has to happen this interim.
Thank you, Representative Steer, and you're probably a little too humble. You've worked on this for a long time, and we are lucky to have you on LCPR. Also, the DE4 does have the actuary funding as well, so should that be helpful to the study group, that's resources that you can be a leader on and decide how they deploy should you need it. Members, questions on the DE4? The chair is a yes, and this represents the culmination of a certain amount of work to try to find a solution to this to represent the best interests of those who keep us safe. Roll call requested, roll call granted. Seeing no further comment, Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Steer, for all your work on this. I know you've spent a lot of time, and this is an emotional issue, and I know that Senator Howe has put a lot of time and has received a lot of grief over this, and that shouldn't have happened. I do see on here that this work group includes legislators who are members of the commission and who commit to attending most meetings of the work group. I'd be happy to serve and attend and work on this problem with you, Representative Steer. Thank you.
Thank you for that, for stepping forward, Senator Seeberger. Further comments before we vote by roll call on the DE4? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Senator Frentz?
Yes.
Senator Pappas?
Yes.
Senator Seeberger? Yes. Senator Westland? Senator Nelson? Yes. Senator Howe? Senator Rasmusson? Oh, sorry. Representative O'Driscoll? Aye. Representative Nadeau?
Yes.
Representative Steer?
Yes.
Representative Lillie?
Yes.
Representative Johnson?
Yes.
Representative Cha?
Yes.
Representative Hill?
Yes.
7 yeses and 1 absent. All.
Thank you, members. There being 5 Senate yeses and 7 House yeses, the amendment is adopted. The motion prevails. Having adopted the DE4 and having discussion, any further discussion before I ask Representative Steer to make the motion? Further discussion? Seeing none. Representative Steer, thank you for your work. Looking for a motion as amended that this bill be recommended to pass and incorporated into the 2026 pension omnibus bill.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Representative Steer. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the bill is incorporated. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Pappas.
When I made the motion on the SBI bill, 4572, I didn't say to be incorporated into the omnibus bill. Was that the intention, though?
Not until all the other bills have gone through. I have an amendment, a motion for that at the end
Okay.
of this. So
All
we
right.
have, members, if it's helpful, we have a certain number of bills that have already been incorporated into the omnibus pension bill, and those that have not, presuming it goes well tonight, will be incorporated by motion at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Senator Nelson.
Just want to make sure we have a list then of what has already been incorporated. Thank you.
Why, Senator Nelson, wouldn't you know it, I brought my list with me and happy to share it with you. It's also available, I believe, on the LCPR website. I see Ms. Wilson nodding and pointing, a sure sign that it's available on the website.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we are now on the fourth agenda item. This is Senator Pappas and Representative Lillie's St. Paul Teachers Retirement Association. Members may remember this bill was laid over from the April 21st meeting. It has been revised as Senate File 4276 and has a 16A amendment. Senator Pappas, Representative Lillie, we have Ms. Wilson who could go over the amendment or have comments from either one of you.
I just wanted to make a few comments, Mr. Chairman,
Senator
if I
Pappas.
might, and then we can have Ms. Wilson go over it. This has been hard work, and I appreciate the support from members of the committee over the kind of the situation with St. Paul teachers and the unfortunate differential with TRA. So I think the bill before us does not get us all the way to parity, but it's a little less than half the loaf. And given the financial situation we're in, I feel I'm very happy that we're able to do that tonight, should we all approve of it.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Representative Lillie? You're good. Senator Pappas, you also are a little too humble. You fought like a tiger for St. Paul teachers for years, and especially in the last 72 hours. Don't ask me how I know. With that, I would ask Ms. Wilson to just briefly review the 16A amendment, please.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. The 16A amendment is an amendment to the Omnibus pension bill. It's 3 sections. It decreases the employee contributions for basic members after June 30th, 2026 from 11.5% to 10.5%, and it decreases the employee contribution rate for coordinated members after June 30th, 2026 from 9% to 8%. And then you will see that the state aid is on page 2, and that is a direct state aid of $3.4 million, which is the number that also corresponds to the spreadsheet that we saw from Mr. Erickson. And the state aid will terminate either the earlier day of the first day of the fiscal year, following 3 years of a funded ratio that equal or exceeds 100%, or July 1, 2048. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, discussion, questions, or comments to the 16A before we move to adopt it? Senator Pappas moves that the 16A amendment be adopted to Senate File 4276. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The motion prevails, and the amendment is adopted. Thank you, Senator Pappas. Thank you, Representative Lillie. That bill also will be incorporated into the pension omnibus bill at the end of tonight's hearing. With that, Senate File 4276, and this is the 14A amendment. Representative O'Driscoll is a co-author. Would you like to speak to the 14A amendment? All right. Members, this bill was also amended at the April 21st meeting. As amended, it was then laid over. This is an amendment to the omnibus pension bill. There are 2 letters in your folder. This is the waiting period for COLA. We talk a lot in LCPR about supporting those that keep us safe. We have a number of opportunities. This is a very prominent one. I'm going to ask if staff wants to review the 14A. Is that Ms. Wilson? Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. The 14A amendment, again, is an amendment to the omnibus bill. It is 2 sections that applies to the PERA Police and Fire plan. The amendment will go in opposite order. The second section reduces the COLA waiting period, specifically the waiting period for a retiree or a benefit recipient to receive a full COLA is reduced from 24 months to 12 months. And the waiting period for a partial COLA is reduced from 13 months to 1 month. Section 1 then has the direct state aid to cover the cost, which is $8 million per year until July 1, 2042. And that again matches what Mr. Erickson had on his spreadsheet. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Well done. Members, some things speak for themselves. We have talked about the waiting period for public safety in this commission for years. This is another step towards parity and a way of saying thank you and protecting our pension promises. Any of our members of LCPR want to comment on that before we move the adoption? Thank you for your work on this, Representative O'Driscoll, Representative Steer, Representative Johnson, Senator Seeberger, public safety community members. Don't say, there was never a chance for me to talk about it. All right. With that, Senator Seeberger.
I wanted to thank you, Mr. Chair, for finding a way to get this done. This is something we've been wrestling with for a while, and something that was a goal, I know, of yours, Mr. Chair, and a goal that we all shared. In a year where we're really struggling to identify what are our priorities, how are we going to fund those priorities with limited funding, questionable funding, and really a questionable outcome on a lot of bills moving through both bodies. I just want to thank you for your hard work on this. And I will be a proud yes on this today, and I'm so glad that we can finally get this done.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger. Further comments that do not embarrass the chair or cause the chair to blush? All right, seeing none. Senator Seeberger, would you move the adoption of the 14A?
So moved.
Members, all those in favor of adopting that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Senator Seeberger's gracious motion passes and the amendment is adopted. We're now going to Senate File 4276 and the 12A amendment. Representative Lillie, thank you for co-authoring the bill. This establishes the telecommunicators plan, and I could ask Ms. Wilson to review. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. As you just said, the 12A amendment establishes the probation and telecommunicator retirement subplan that would be administered by MSRS. So this is just a subplan for state employees. The amendment looks substantially similar to the bill that the commission saw on March 24th, except that the amount of the appropriations to the state agencies have been added on page 15 of the amendment, and that total amount is $737,000 annually, which again tracks with the spreadsheet that Mr. Erickson discussed. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, comments, questions to the 12A? Representative Lillie, anything you want to say on behalf of all this hard work? You two deserve a lot of thanks, especially in the last 72 hours for the phone calls and the work on the House side. Members, with that, Representative Lillie moves adoption of the 12A. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion prevails and the 12A amendment is adopted. All right, moving on to agenda item number 7. Still, Senate File 4276, the 10A amendment. This is the probation 911 operators establishment plan. Ms. Wilson, would you be willing to review again, please?
Thank you, Chair Frentz. Yes, this is the 10A amendment establishing the local government probation and telecommunicator retirement plan that would be administered by PERA. So this would be for county and city employees. This amendment is identical to the bill that the commission saw on March 24th. It's just been reformatted to be an amendment to the Omnibus pension bill. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, questions or comment to the 10A? Representative Nadeau.
Mr. Chair, and would now be a time to talk about the one-time money on this particular bill?
Representative Nadeau, I'm glad you asked. I
Thank you.
tried that a moment ago, and I got shot down by the staff who want us to go through to agenda item 10 before we talk about the one-time money. You would think the chair would have a hand in those
Who
decisions.
chairs this committee,
But
Mr.
not
Chair?
tonight. We do have one-time money of $3 million, and I did just ask, and so if you're okay, Representative Nadeau, you know, these are the votes we got to get here, up here. Thank you, Representative Nadeau. With that, we still. Representative Nadeau moves the adoption of the 10A amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Moving on to Senate File 4276 and the 11A. This is technical changes. I don't know if we need a review, Ms. Wilson. I see the head shaking. Members, these are technical changes incorporated into the local government probation and 911 retirement plan administration by PERA. Questions or comments to the technical amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the 11A, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion prevails, and the amendment is adopted. Now, We are going to talk about the one-time money. There's too many thanks to go out, but for those members of the public who are going to be participating in the new plans, you'll be pleased to know there is a 17A amendment for $3 million of one-time money. And again, too many people on the LCPR to thank, but we will have a walkthrough of how that money will be deployed to help with the employee share of these two new plans. As soon as Ms. Lincheski returns. And members, as you can see, the 17A is being passed out here. Ms. Wilson, to the 17A, please.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. The 17A is an amendment to the Omnibus pension bill. What it does is it gives direct state aid to the new fund that is going to be established by PERA, the Local Government Probation and Telecommunicator Retirement Fund, in the amount of $2,610,000. And then it also similarly gives money to the MSRS general plan, which will be administering the subplan for probation officers and telecommunicators in the amount of $390,000. Those amounts are then used to lower the employee contribution rates to 8% up and until August 31, 2028, at which time they will go back to the amounts that were established in the bill. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. So members, what's happening here is help for a limited period of time. The hope would be that a future LCPR would talk about the ways that that support might continue, but whether it does or not, this is $3 million of one-time money to help our friends who are probation officers and fit the categories of 911 communicator. With that, members, questions. Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The analysis that I've done on this is it costs $1.86 million to do the buy down to 8% for the plans in question here. And Ms. Wilson said that this buys it down. This $3 million that we're talking about cumulative doesn't actually bring it down to a full 8%. It brings it down to a slightly higher number than 8%. So I want to make sure that there's clarity on that, because if you take the $3 million that we were talking about, divide it by 2, it's $1.5 million a year. So we're $386,000 short to be able to buy it down each of those 2 years to an 8%. And I just wanted to make sure that there was clarification for anybody who was following this, as well as the commission, where there's a temporary buy down, but it is not to 8%, but it does utilize money that was available to the commission and revised to be able to attempt what we're talking about here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Representative O'Driscoll for the amount of work that he did to try to get this PERT bought down. And my question to, I think, staff is, I recall that the work group put this at 8.82%, what it was. And so I know that the language now says 8%. And so is that the percent that the employee will be paying, or will they be paying slightly above that with what Representative O'Driscoll said, that it doesn't buy it down? Which one trumps? Is the employee going to be paying 8%, or is it going to be slightly higher than that?
Thank you, Representative Nadeau, and thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. We're going to go to Ms. Wilson. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. Representative Nadeau, so how this is worded in subdivision 2 is that it would bring it down to 8% of salary through August 31, 2028. It'll then go up to that 8.71 or 8.82, depending on which plan, which was the normal amount sort of agreed to.
Representative Nadeau.
And thank you. And, you know, and again, I really appreciate the work that the work group did, and I'm glad that we went through that exercise, and I think we came up with a really good product. And I think that the chairs of this committee worked really hard to even make that even less reduced, less of an impact on some of those corrections officers that are over the age of 50, that are going to have a little less of a benefit, and this is going to be a little less payment as well. So I think it's all really good, but I will reiterate my concern that when, you know, this has a funding deficiency as we start out, but we're going to slowly get there. It's going to take a little bit longer with this, which is fine. And so I think this is one of those things where over the year and over the last couple of weeks, I think we really made some great we made some great progress on this. And I'm really appreciative of the work group and the chairs and this commission for cranking out this plan. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Doe. Members, further comments or questions to the 17A amendment? Seeing none, and with thanks to the staff for the explanation, all those in favor of adopting the 17A, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion prevails, and the 17A is adopted. Members, agenda item number 9 is the Appendix C. This relates to the establishment of the PERA Local Government Probation and Telecommunicator Retirement Plan. Specifically, it's about calculating the amount of assets in the PERA General Plan that have to be transferred. And having discussed the one-time amendment, Ms. Wilson, why don't we do a brief overview, and then we have Mr. Anderson here also. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. So a little bit of background, the 10A amendment, which established the new plan for PERA, requires that if a member was transferred from the PERA general plan to this new plan on January 1, 2027, and had allowable service under the general plan, PERA must pay the retirement annuity or benefit from the assets of the Probation and Telecommunicator Fund. Therefore, the 10A amendment also requires that the assets attributable to those members who transferred to the new plan on January 1, 2027, be transferred from the PERA General Fund to the PERA Probation and Telecommunicator Fund to then be able to pay for those benefits out of this new fund. So Appendix C just provides the calculation method that PERA is going to give to its actuaries for determining the amount of assets that must be transferred. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. So members, we're going to move adoption of the appendix. Are there questions or concerns? With that, Senator Westland, would you like to make a motion to approve Appendix C to the standards for actuarial work? Thank you, Senator. Senator Westland moves approval of the Appendix C to the standards for actuarial work. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion prevails and Appendix C is adopted. All right, one moment, folks. Members, we're now to agenda item number 10. This is the Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill for 2026. Since there are a number of amendments, let's have Ms. Lincheski do a brief walkthrough, and then we'll go to the amendments individually. Ms. Lincheski.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. I'm going to go very quickly through this. You do have a summary in your materials, as well as the actual Omnibus DE1. So the first article is the MSRS admin changes and special legislation that was heard some time ago and approved. Article 2 are some minor administrative changes to PERA, Public Employees Retirement Association. Article 3 is related to the teachers. We have TRA and St. Paul teachers. Some additional administrative changes and extension of the suspension on the earnings limitation as well. Article 4 has to do with volunteer firefighters. One of the highlights is the Maple Plain Relief Association, the termination of that, as well as the changes that we made to the termination of a relief association so that present value issue is not an issue anymore, or once enacted. Article 5 relates to all the pension plans, a number of administrative changes there. Article 6 is the Secure Choice Retirement Program changes, a number of very important administrative changes that were needed to keep this program up and running. Article 7, supplemental plans. This is the gift to LCPR staff, which allows us to no longer have to collect these investment fee and rate of return disclosures every year. Article 8 is the Healthcare Savings Plan from Senator Nelson. It allows for commissioners to participate among with other elected officials. Article 9 is the work group section that has the Relief Association work group, as well as that is where we'll put in the new work group that we just recently approved. The final article is special legislation. That is the IRAP situation where we had someone who had a account that was lost. Minnesota State has to find that account or
pay that person $30,000. And then the final session law there is the one relating to the City of Minneapolis employee who had some periods of service that had been missed, and that allows that person to buy back that service.
Thank you, Ms. Linczewski. Members, again, in your packet, you'll see we have a series of amendments here. If there are no further questions, we'll go first to Representative Nadeau and the 2A amendment for St. Paul Teachers Retirement Fund. Representative Nadeau, do you want to make any comments to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move this amendment, and this does two things. Number one, it creates the same licensed physician assistant language that we passed for TRA that allows the St. Paul teachers to be the medical expert when they're doing the duty disability component. And then the second part is that it doesn't, as long as the auditor is not going to conduct an audit of the St. Paul Teachers Association books, that the St. Paul Teachers Association can do it on their own, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Nadeau, and thanks for your work on that also. Further questions or comments to the 2A? Seeing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the 2A amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion prevails, and the 2A amendment is adopted. Our next amendment is the 5A amendment. This is the PERA statewide volunteer firefighter plan. Why don't we have Ms. Wilson run through that? Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. The 5A amendment is two sections, and it relates to the statewide volunteer firefighter plan administered by PERA. Currently, the executive director of PERA must determine the funding requirements for each account in the lump sum division of the defined benefit plan on or before August 1 every other year. The amendment just changes that requirement from a biennial requirement to an annual requirement. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, questions or comments to the 5A before we ask Senator Nelson to move the amendment? Seeing none. Senator Nelson, thank you. Senator Nelson moves the 5A amendment be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion prevails and the 5A is adopted. Featured in the Linczewski review is the 15A amendment. Next on our agenda, the Maple Plain Relief Association. Thank you to several members here. We're going to ask Representative Nadeau for comments and can have, if you need, Representative Nadeau, Ms. Linczewski do any review. Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This is a simple amendment that eliminates a sentence in here that is establishing the trust established by the Maple Plain Fire Relief Association. So when this Relief Association is dissolved and those dollars, they're just going right straight back to the Maple Plain Fire Relief Association, not the trust. And this was done at the request of the Maple Plain Fire Relief Association. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Nadeau, and thank you for all the work on this. Members, any questions for the 15A amendment before we move to adopt it? Representative Nadeau, would you move the adoption of the 15A?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you, Representative. All those in favor of adoption of the 15A, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. The 3A amendment is the LCPR technical amendment, and for this, we will ask Ms. Wilson for any review, comment, or analysis. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. As you said, the 3A amendment makes technical, administrative, or conforming changes that either LCPR staff found or were brought to LCPR staff's attention throughout the last year. I think, three sections. First line 1.3 just adds in language that was removed by the revisor's office but should not have been, and so it's just adding that language back in. Lines 1.4 to 1.7 revise certain effective dates for when the employer contributions for reemployed annuitants are required. These effective dates apply to PERA and are just revised so that they will now be January 1, 2027. Then we have the article that starts on page 1 and goes until page 21. And these are just changes that bring into conformity different terms and definitions that are used throughout the statutes and updates the language just throughout many different statutes, specifically related to volunteer firefighters and firefighter relief associations and the the statewide volunteer firefighter plan administered by PERA. And then we have the last article that begins on page 21, which includes other miscellaneous technical corrections. Thank you, Chair Frentz.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Any members with questions, comments, or concerns about the 3A technical amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, Representative Johnson moves the adoption of the 3A amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The 3A is adopted. Members, we also need a motion that authorizes the staff to make any necessary technical corrections to the omnibus bill. And for that, Representative Steer, would you make that motion? Representative Steer moves that we authorize the pension staff to make any necessary technical corrections to the omnibus bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion prevails. Members, we're going to take final action on the 2026 omnibus bill. There's an opportunity for members to comment if they wish before we accept a motion. The bill having been assembled, we're now going to move its passage. Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, I have to ask again about what happened to that SBI bill, because I'm still kind of confused. Is it somewhere in the packet here?
Ms. Wilson. Thank you, Senator Pappas. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Thank you, Chair Frentz. Senator Pappas, that bill was changed into an amendment to the omnibus bill, so when it was moved as an amendment,
And we already did that
and we did that.
during one of these provisions? I missed it.
Yes.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say I neglected to thank the St. Paul teachers who worked so hard and advocated so hard and were so persistent in getting some parity to their plan. So if everyone out there in the audience is listening, thank you for your hard work.
Well, Senator Pappas, and I see Senator Nelson, before you think you'll get out of here without a final thank you for our retiring members, there'll be a moment for comments. Let's adopt the omnibus pension bill, and then if members do want to make any final comments or thank you for the retiring members, I think that'd be appropriate. If everyone's okay with that, I would ask Senator Nelson.
I just, actually, not necessarily just retiring members. I really want to.
Everybody will have
wanna-
an opportunity to
Okay.
comment. Senator Nelson. We'll probably never get out of here. There'll be so much opportunity for people to comment on the 2026 omnibus pension bill. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I wonder, Representative O'Driscoll, given all the work that you put in, if you'd be willing to make the motion to adopt the omnibus pension bill.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
Thank you. Representative O'Driscoll moves that the Senate File 4276, House File 4074, as amended, be recommended to pass as the 2026 Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill, and this recommendation be forwarded to the House and Senate Committees of Jurisdiction. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion prevails, and the 2026 Omnibus Pension Bill is passed out of the LCPR. Thank you, members. I would like to create room for some thanks and a recognition of 3 of our members that are retiring. And with that, we'll go to anybody who wants to speak, starting with Representative Steer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say a little story to the cops and firefighters out there. Last year, I walked into Representative O'Driscoll's office, and I'm in the pension plan right now. And he mentioned a 3-year delay in the COLA increase, and I had no idea. And most police and fire have no idea that there was a delay. So I want to thank this commission, because last year we took it from 3 years down to 2 years, and now with the work of this commission, we took it down to 1 year. We finally got that down. It's a huge win for every police officer and firefighter out there right now, so thank you to everybody that got this done.
Thank you, Representative Steer. And at the risk of embarrassing someone who's bigger than me, I remember when we met and you said the reason I want to be on pensions is to help the people of public safety in Minnesota, and you have accomplished that, and it's very fortunate that you're serving on the LCPR. Just in case members want to know this, I am going to ask Representative O'Driscoll and Senator Pappas to say a few words as retiring members, but before we get to that, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think Representative Steer and I are about the same size. So
I see you need new glasses.
I want to take the opportunity. Representative O'Driscoll has been such an important part of this commission, and I want to thank him. I want to thank the staff, especially for the work that they do. This is a fun committee to be on because it's so complicated and it's so difficult. And staff makes it not only interesting, and the people that we get to work with. I mean, I'm not going to mention Mr. Rice, but I'm going to mention Jill and Rose Hennessy and the auditor and Philip and, I mean, Amy. I'm going to stop because I'm going to forget. But it's such an important bit of work that we do. And I remember when we got on here and I was told, well, we don't really do, we kind of wait a long time between pension bills. And since we've been on here, we've made those small increments where we can. And I think that's what's so important. And I think that goes to the leadership of Representative O'Driscoll that fights so hard to try to get these funds, because it's expensive. What we do here is expensive, and it costs a lot of money, and it impacts a lot of people's lives. And I just really appreciate that, that we're able to work together in this environment, regardless of what's going on in the rest of this Capitol. We work hard here to focus on the employees that put this state together, that work so hard, and that's what I want to thank Representative O'Driscoll for.
Thank you, Representative Doe. Further comments before we go to our retiring members, Representative Hill and then Representative Cha, or Representative Cha and then Representative Hill. Don't fight. Representative.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Representative Driscoll. We served on this commission for the last 4 years. I've learned a lot from you as a first-time legislator in this commission. We also serve on Commerce for the last 4 years. I'm proud to have served the last 4 years with you, and I wish you the best. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Hill.
I too want to offer my thanks, and I want to be as brief as possible in doing that. I know folks have had a long day, but certainly to our veteran members who have helped me to put this new and challenging puzzle together in my mind's eye by spending time with us, being patient with us, and moving through the discussions around just how important this investment is, not just for our workers certainly, but for our state here in Minnesota. I saw that firsthand as the grandson of 4 public workers who were able to live rich lives well into their 90s, serving their community, due in large part to their access to a pension. So thank you. It's an honor to be here, and it's been an honor to learn from you as we move through the process.
Thank you, Representative Hill. Senator Seeberger, Senator Nelson, I forget, Senator Nelson.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to also note, this has been my first term on pensions. I've been here many terms, but not on pensions before. And what a fast committee, large amounts of information, critical information. And I particularly want to thank the staff for all of the help in really getting up to speed, even though I have some experience in the financial services industry. I would say pensions has been a great committee. Mr. Chair, you've done a wonderful job, I think, chairing this committee, and I am very glad for the good work that we do. I would say one thing, as someone mentioned, the importance of tackling issues early as opposed to late. There's one thing we know on this committee probably better than anything, and that is the value of time over money. And so when we have a mistake or something that needs to be corrected, certainly it's much more advantageous and less costly if we address it earlier rather than later. So I think in a sense we might be seeing that a little bit with the St. Paul Teachers Fund. There has been some real challenges there, and they're not new challenges. They're things that were from years ago that still need to be overcome. And then I do want to especially just mention Senator Pappas for your leadership. And I also just wanted to note, if people were remembering, I was pretty adamant about a secure choice. I thought that was going to be a very bad thing for Minnesotans and for Minnesota businesses. And I just want you to know, Senator Pappas, publicly, I was wrong. I think it has become a great asset for us, for our businesses, obviously hearing from the business providers, and for the people who might not have been able to have a retirement plan. And I do want to tip my hat. I don't know if the director's here, but he has done a marvelous job of starting. So know that that's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I was newly elected in 2023, Mr. Chair, you approached me and encouraged me to sit on the Pensions Commission, and I agreed. And I will say the learning curve was very, very steep. The first year I was on this commission, I wondered whether I would ever understand what we were talking about in this commission. I want to thank Ms. Lincheski for always being available for questions, never making me feel like any question was a stupid question, because I just simply do not have the background that some folks do when it comes to this. I have thoroughly enjoyed my 4 years on this commission, and I hope, should I return to the legislature, I have the privilege and honor of continuing to serve on this commission, because I feel like I finally now understand it, and I don't want that to go to waste. So I hope I am back. It has been my pleasure to work on this. I want to recognize the wisdom and leadership of Representative O'Driscoll, Senator Pappas, who have provided a steady presence and really words of wisdom as we've dealt with some complex issues and emotional topics. And it has been a pleasure seeing you work, and you will be missed. I want to acknowledge the work of Senator Howe, and I regret that his final meeting was not a positive one, but I want to honor his work and everything he did for the fire service and for firefighter issues. I would like that to be recognized as well. I think I had one more thing, but that's probably enough for now. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger. Before we go to our Representative Lillie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't talk very often in this commissions, and a lot of people have said what I was thinking. I just am really proud of the work that we've been able to do as a commission, and this is an incredible bill, given the divide of our government at the time right now, and to come together and to be able to do a bill like this that really helps people. I mean, this ultimately is about the people that do the great work for all of us in the state. And it's really humbling. You know, you get the people that come in and testify, and you hear their stories, and, you know, we all have personal relationships, or we know people that do different work, but it's, you know, it's all ultimately about the people that are out there doing good work, keeping us safe, educating us, and on and on. So it's just, it's really humbling to sit in this space and then try to, you know, with the few resources we have, try to make these tough choices that we have to make. And then, but it's amazing, the space, the staff that we have. Thank you, Susan, and your team. Is what an incredible resource. And just the state is so blessed by the work that you do, and thank you for that. You know, in the crowd, you know, these people that watch our dollars, I mean, it's incredible. You know, they come up and they testify, but they really are, these pensions are so important to individual people, you know, and we all know costs are going up, and, you know, the pensions, you know, that are there really make a difference in lives, and we've heard different testimony about numbers, but those numbers are real. It's like, can you buy a hamburger or not, or gas, or, you know, it's real lives out there that we're impacting every day. I've really been touched by, I'm gonna kind of lean this direction, but going down the line, we've had an amazing team on both sides of the aisle. Representative Johnson's just hit the ground running right from the get-go and has a great resume and knowledge of, you know, in the fire services and well beyond that, and just a great heart. And then you've got Representative Chaw that, you know, has been on the commission, and, you know, probably should have been in my role more as the lead on this side, but with more experience. But, and thank you, but I love when he hears how a teacher, you know, took them and taught them how to read in St. Paul teacher, and here we are helping St. Paul teachers. It's magical. So it's really cool. And then next to him is a teacher, Representative Hill, and brings a great wealth of knowledge. And so thank you, all of you on my team. And then you get to steer, and he's a big guy, and but he has a big heart, and it's pretty amazing. He and very thoughtful, and just again a new member, but he's really hit the ground running in the legislature, and it's just neat to see. You know, I've been in the legislature quite a while, and just to see the new members that just come to this place and it bring great knowledge. And Nadu is clearly talented and creative. You're not as big as him. I'm sorry to tell you. It's kind of hard news, but very close though. And, you know, the nonpartisan staff that we have, you know, sitting behind us here on our side, you know, is incredible on both sides of the aisle. And we're lucky, and then even Ryan's pretty darn good. But, you know, on your side, you know, you have, you know, Senator Nelson and Westland and Seeberger, great input during these meetings, and I've talked more than I have, but I very much value what you bring to the table. But getting to our more senior members, Senator Pappas, thank you. I've enjoyed serving with you all. I've been here I'm a new hire. I've only been here in my 22nd year, so, you know, I'm very new in here compared to you, but, you know, you every day you bring game. You're really, you know, you fight hard for Minnesotans all over. Yes, St. Paul, but beyond, and care about Minnesota, and thank you for all you've done. And then it is unfortunate, you know, that, Representative, now Senator Howe, I served with him in the House, and then now he's in the Senate, and that, you know, today didn't. But every day his opinion was valued here, and so I hope he hears us. But hats off to Representative Driscoll, and he really embraced me when I first was able to come onto this committee, and has been a true partner. You know, technically I'm like the lead, but I'm really not. You know, we've been side by side and smacking Chair Frentz around pretty good. And I'm kind of proud of that. We've had you know, good leadership, I think, in the House, and now, you know, the Senate under you, Chair Frentz. Thank you. But Representative Driscoll is going to be very missed. His wisdom in this space, but beyond this, which was mentioned in commerce and other things, is it's real. But in this space, I can't believe how nonpartisan he was. He just wants to do the right work. And sometimes, you know, I have to be honest about myself. I get a little partisan-y, you know, but he lifted me up all the time, and he really cares about the workers of Minnesota and just this work as a legislator, as a state legislator, and you're gonna be missed. But I'm sorry I've talked so long. I probably don't talk, I probably haven't talked this whole session in this committee this long. I'm sure I'm missing something, but again, Mr. Chair, thank you. I think we put together a darn good bill that's given the current environment. You know, people forget, we're 67 in the House, and you have one extra seat in the Senate. I mean, you cannot be more divided. And last year, we had an amazing bill. I'm just gonna brag, because it's true. And then to do this on top of it, given the current environment, I think it's not perfect, I get that, and I'm sorry, you know, so, you know, people that feel that way, but I think we all can be really proud, and this bill is very focused on the workers, and that makes me proud, so, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lillie, for all of that. Members, we're going to go to Senator Pappas and Representative O'Driscoll, and so I don't go last. Just want to say a few thanks on my own. Thank you to all of you. Thanks for making LCPR a great place to work. Thank you to the advocates. Thank you to the plan directors for bringing your expertise up here. Thank you to our nonpartisan staff, both sides of the aisle, both parties. This is a nonpartisan commission in some ways. I've never heard any partisan stripes of any of the bills we've worked on. Thank you to those that represent the stakeholders, the employers. To our three work colleagues, Ms. Wilson, Ms. Lincheski, Ms. Pearson, thank you. You are a fantastic team, and I know this much. This is as good a team as we've had up here in all the years I've been on LCPR, and I really want to thank all of you for the quality of work. You notice we turn it over to you to explain sometimes. That's not actually coincidence. Want to say thanks to Jill Schertz. You are an incredible director of State Board of Investment, and while we argue about 12 million ongoing, we might notice that there's 27 billion that was put together through the excellent work of the State Board of Investment. And to all of your points, those working men and women that were fighting to protect their pension promises, where do you think that money comes from? Thank you, Ms. Schertz, to you and your entire team, and I hope you tell them we said that. It's very likely that I will not be the chair of pensions next year. Don't ask me how I know. But the chair of pensions might be on this side next year, and whoever it is, I hope you know it is an honor and a privilege to serve in this role. And for my friends on the Senate side, including Senator Howe and Senator Rasmusson, Senator Nelson, Senator Westland, Senator Seeberger, Senator Pappas, what a privilege to serve on pensions with you. And Senator Pappas, you may recall talking with me a few years ago and saying, yeah, I think you're going to be the vice chair. And I thought, I want to know what that sounds like. And she said, well, you'll see. And you were right. And with that, I hope before we adjourn, people would indulge me and just ask for Representative O'Driscoll and Senator Pappas to just say a few words. I realize Senator Howe's not here to say his last words on pensions, but he deserves our appreciation and respect. But since the two of you are here, and since we appreciate your expertise and your time so much, I hope the two of you wouldn't mind closing us out before we adjourn the hearing. And I don't have a coin to flip. If we don't, we're going to go alphabetical, which would be Representative O'Driscoll first. Representative.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members for the kind words today. I relish the role I have right now as the person behind the scenes that can do the work, and that Senator Frentz is the chair, and that I almost swore at you by saying Senator Lillie. Representative Lillie is the vice chair, because if my ideas don't come to fruition, I get to blame these two guys, hands down, on where we're at. In all seriousness, when I came in the legislature, I have parents who both were in Minnesota public employment and knew pensions and drew pensions. And I was the geeky high school and college kid that said, so how do your pensions work and what's going on? And they would say, well, this thing came in the mail, you might want to read it. And so I read it and I started doing some studying. And when I got here to the legislature, I went to our leader at that time, Kurt Dowd, and I said, if there's ever a possibility of being able to be on the pension commission, I'd like to do that. And he said, well, I'll let you know. It didn't take long, and he came back and he said, you can have anything you want as it relates to pensions, because no one wants to be on the pension commission. Shortly after that, I found myself in the chair's position, and Senator Pappas was the vice chair. And Senator Pappas and I rolled up our sleeves because our plans were in a very difficult situation. And one of the things that people forget about the importance of the state of Minnesota's creditworthiness is that New York, the bond rating agencies where we go and borrow money, not only as the state of Minnesota, but counties, cities, school districts, and the like, how the state's fiscal situation is extremely important in determining what the interest rates that these local units of government and the state of Minnesota will pay. And we were in jeopardy of losing our AAA credit rating. And I remember working with Myron Franz and working with Senator Pappas, and our first bill was vetoed by the governor in 15, and our second bill was vetoed by the governor. But it was finally, by the time we got going in 2018, Senator Rosen was the chair and I was the vice chair. And we had to make some hard decisions. We said, we will put $1 of new public money for every $2 that the plans help us to find ways to save. And the promise that we made was that when we have the ability to, we will be back to start restoring benefits to people. And again, we were able to start doing that last year, and tonight we are in the next chapter of being able to do just that. Senator Pappas, I really appreciate working with you over the years. You and I have not always seen eye to eye on issues. I don't think that the new kids that are with us really appreciate the hard work that you and I have had to go through and endure to get to where we are today. But I'm glad to have made that journey with you. I'm glad to have made that journey with others and with the people who are here today. And something that was said not all that long ago to me by Representative Johnson that resonates with me, and this was about 3 weeks on the commission. He said, how do you like it? He goes, I gotta tell you, you don't know who the Democrats are, you don't know who the Republicans are on this commission. And I said, that is exactly the way it should be. That we are rolling up our sleeves and working together. It's almost unheard of. Representative Lillie can talk to our staff and get a fair, straight answer. I can talk to the House staff that supports pensions and get a solid answer. It's not like, well, you gotta talk to your team and talk to our team. It is the team. And that's extremely important to be able to be successful. And I'm very pleased to be able to see advances in people's careers. Ms. Strange worked in the Senate at the time we put the 18 bill together. She's now a very, very valued player at PERA. Doug Anderson, the actuary, he has a very calming and very college studious professor way of bringing things forward, but he helps us to land in the right spot. One of the people who is just an incredible resource that I lean on quite a bit, who has the same birthday as I do, for those of you who remember the history of this commission, is Ms. Leonard. And Mr. Maurer, Ms. Dayton, you have also moved forward and assumed the roles of where we are. This is absolutely great. And Mr. Tenzik, appreciate working with you as well as Ms. Schertz, who had your position, is now the SBI director. It's just incredible, the team that we've been able to put together for Minnesota and for Minnesotans. And so with that, I want to say a final word about Senator Howe. When I was on the Pension Commission, he came up to me one day, he goes, you're not gonna believe this. I said, now what did you do? And he said, I'm gonna be on the Pension Commission with you. And he's been a valuable asset. And with his firefighter and public safety, you hear firefighters are the ones who are running to the building, and when it's burning, well, everyone else is running away. That man has done this, as we talked about earlier tonight, on this duty disability. He keeps running into the fire and gets burned. I hope that we find a solution with this work group that everyone can be proud of, and we can do it in his honor. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll.
I'm done
Of
here.
course.
One other thing is I want to thank Ms. Lincheski. We had a change in executive directors. And there's never been a day that I regret you saying yes to coming on here. And the people you have worked with and the team that you've put around here is nothing short of amazing. And so I appreciate the staff and the decision that we made. And again, you saying yes to helping the people in the state of Minnesota and supporting this commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. Senator Pappas, any thoughts?
Well, I think everything has been said tonight, but not everyone has said it, including me. And as I sat here listening to everyone, I started getting wet-eyed, and I thought how dorky we all are that we cry about the end of leaving the Pension Commission. I never, ever thought I'd be on pensions. I had a storied history with defeating a pension chair, but Senator Poggemiller decided to appoint me, and it was the best thing that I think ever happened to me. I too want to thank all the stakeholders. I'm not going to name you all by names as Representative Driscoll did, but the plan directors, you've all been wonderful to work with. I loved working with Jill Schertz when she was with the St. Paul teachers, and so proud of her that now she's the executive director of the SBI. And there's Julie sitting next to you. You know, the state auditor has been wonderful also to work with all these years. Thank you, Senator Nelson, for your comments about secure choice. It was kind of my dream from the beginning, and I remember one of the plan directors gave me a really strange look, and he will remain nameless, when I said, you know, there's a lot of people out there who don't have access to these wonderful pensions that we give to state employees. We should really do something about that. And I'm so happy that we did that. It was really a goal of mine. I forgot that you hired Susan Lincheski with me. I was going to say, I hired Susan Lincheski. And it was a wonderful decision, and it's been great to work with you. And as we get new staff, they just are also wonderful to work with. And so thank you, and all the staff in the back, too. Again, I could name you all by names, but the night is getting late. Senator O'Driscoll, it was very wonderful to work with you over the years. I'm glad that you stuck with it. I stuck with it. I think this is the best team we've had on the Pension Commission. Everyone is engaged, everyone participates. The phones are put away, except I see Senator Johnson, Representative Johnson over there on his phone. Call you out. I mean, I don't know any committees like that where everyone kind of pays attention to what's going on. And it's important that we do, because these are very important decisions that we make. And I remember, you know, when I was chair or vice chair, how nervous I was about the decisions that we made, because I knew how important they were and how much I felt it was important to consult and respect the opinions of the experts and the staff. Finally, Senator Frentz, sorry, I'm losing it here. I'm so happy that you stepped up into this role so that I could step back. And I really felt like I did step back a lot, and because I had to focus so much on capital investment and the work of that committee. But it was just really good to know that the Pension Commission was in good hands with Senator Frentz leaving, my good friend who's leaving, but all of you who are going to carry on, and just be sure you get really good people to replace us, because this work is so important, and our state and our local employees really rely on us to do the right thing. So thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Pappas, and thank you, members. I think
And as soon as we adjourn, then we can all applaud each other.
The greatest compliment I think you can give a legislative committee is that they work together across the aisle. I think you get the best ideas, and for all of you, it has just been a privilege to serve. Thank you. Best of luck the last 2 weeks to the co-chairs, Mr. Majerus, Rose, and Julie from the State Auditor's Office, and everybody else. We are adjourned.